So my presentation I have sent to Nolan. Thank you, Nolan, for presenting it. And maybe we can proceed like that. It's just 8 minutes. So anyway, not many details.
Brilliant.
Yeah, should I start?
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I would like to focus on greenery, and actually my presentation is entitled Warsaw Goes Green as a strategy of the post-COVID recovery plan is increase of the greenery. Obviously, can I have the second slide? The strategies of cities in the post-COVID era may focus on various targets, and what I call the resilient city is a city that basically has to focus on either or all of the factors that are mentioned here, which are greenery, clean. I mean by that the clean air, especially health, the public health, circularity, smart city, climate neutral city. All of these factors make city more resilient, which becomes more and more obvious that is what we have to do in our cities. But because I don't have enough time to cover all of these points, I would like just to shortly present what we are doing in terms of the greenery, cleaner, and the climate neutrality. So in terms of greenery, we are basically focused on the nature-based solution, improving the greenery of our streets, increasing the green areas of parks, creating new forests, and also we have managed during last 2 years to set up an entirely holistic system of trees management, and I will go to this later. In terms of clean air, coal removal program is our basic program. Warsaw Council has dedicated unprecedented amount of money for this program. It's around 70 million euros within next 3 years. For removal 20,000 coal stoves and coal furnaces in the city housing system. Sustainable mobility, waste, circularity, and so on. These are further projects that will be promoted. I think something is wrong with the color of this presentation. And in terms of climate neutrality, we have started working on our climate action plan on the project on energy modernization of buildings, street lighting modernization and limiting the emissions, and of course building standards. Buildings is the area where cities are really having something to say, basically have control over their own buildings and can set standards and incentive system, financial incentives for improvement of buildings. Let's go further. So our greenery program is based on several components, and the first one is nature-based solutions and the so-called notion of the sponge city, so the city that is climate resilient, that is holding the largest amount of the stormwater on the ground and not basically piping it back to the rivers. So our priorities is the protection of Vistula natural embankment, which is surprisingly a Nature 2000 area. And I believe it's probably the only Nature 2000 area in the city center. We have set one of the goals, protection of existent and conservation areas and setting the new conservation areas. We have possibility to create another 200 hectares of such an area to convert an impervious area into the green hectares in the city. We also work on development of standards and specifications for green streets component, and of course blue infrastructure solutions for stormwater along the streets and also on the private and public grounds. And the next one, I just wanted to present a few realizations, a few projects that are either done, or the one in the left is a project being in a pipeline and it's gonna be completed next year or within the next 2 years. So the city is also having these actions to improve the public space and to make it more green and also more well, more green, let's say. Then the next one, please. We are also, we have done some of the green streets. We have 44 green streets in the pipeline. This is one of the streets that is already ready and existent, and it's looking like that. It's one of the nicest way to go with the bicycle, and it's my way to work, so I'm quite happy. The next one, please. So we also focus on the creation of the new green areas. As COVID pandemic has shown, this is a vital element of the city infrastructure, the green infrastructure. We have focused on supplying to all citizens a park in a close proximity. Therefore, we are in the process of creating 5 new parks, already on top of the 88 that exist in Warsaw, and of 60 new green squares, smaller spaces for people to have a space to spend time outside when the mobility is being constrained in this difficult COVID time. Warsaw is a very green, actually, city. 45% of city area is covered by green area waters, but we are more ambitious. We want to go further. The next one, please. Another strong point of Warsaw is the amount of forest within the city boundaries. We have more or less 15 and 5% of the city covered with the forest, and we're working hard on enlarging these areas. So we have done, we have added 50 hectares more in 2019, and we have already designated area of 100 hectares more, which we are going to add to our city forest by within next 2 to 3 years. And next one, please. And that is the project that I'm particularly fond on and proud of. We have started, and actually we are on up to finish with total reshaping of the greenery management system, which is based on aerial images, and also the new care standards for trees. It has started with the declaration of the Declaration on the Trees' Rights, basically, as a sort of manifest, which shows that trees are important for the citizens, for the quality of life in the city. And then attached to that are the specific standards of care, of conducting investments in such a way that is the most protective for trees. We have done the canopy map. We have half of the city covered already by the map, and now we are waiting for another half to be completed by the end of the year. We also started mapping tree trunks, and these projects also will be completed by the end of the year. And we have developed a new risk assessment system that allows us to qualify trees according to the criteria of, the condition based on which we can set up a proper monitoring system. On the one hand, providing safety for the citizens, on the other hand, protecting the old trees in the city center in particular. And that's last of my slides. So basically, of course, greenery is just one of the elements of the resilient city. We believe it's a key element. We believe that environment is a key element of urban infrastructure and the basic resource of the city. We want to show its importance, to create a system that allows us to take care of this value in the best possible way, and then we believe that it provides the long-term sustainability for the city. This kind of approach that we have implemented in Warsaw. Thank you.
Thank you, Stina, very much. And focusing mostly on the nature-based solutions and expanding the green areas. That is very, very good emphasis that we will again we'll discuss that as well. And now is Dominique Weiss here?
No, actually, he has an ailment today, non-corona ailment, so he's unable to join.
Okay, in which case, can we assume that we have finished with the presentations from the cities, and we can move to the response of the...
Yuri has been dropping in and out, so I'm trying to get a hold of him. But yes, for now, we have the three indeed.
I mean, if you allow me, I would just try to make a very brief conclusions or summary of what has been discussed now. That the cities in the region are focusing with different emphasis, obviously, on expanding the infrastructure, the modernization, interesting things like the expanding of tram network and with view to the future, and self-driving trams. That was interesting. And also the digital infrastructure of the cities is key. Several times was mentioned the urban lighting, which provides different solutions in terms of urban comfort, but also significant energy saving. Air quality obviously is a key issue for many cities. The ambitious program of stove replacement in Warsaw was mentioned, but also what Ada was talking about, the energy efficiency. Probably this is the long-term and really sustainable and right way to improve air quality, especially air quality related to heating. And we heard mostly from Justina a lot about the nature-based solutions. I will just mention here one story that has been developed recently in Sofia, but also was mentioned in the last IPCC report on land and climate, the expansion of urban farming. And I don't know whether in some of the cities that is also an initiative. And of course, along the urban farming, green roofs is another thing that we can discuss. So, I mean, this is very a rough summary, but we can maybe now try to hear something from the stakeholders. I will again try to understand who is here and who is not. Is Martina Slabeva here for HB Revis?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So we'll hear first your response, then Martina.
Well, thank you for the possibility to be here. HB Reality is a Slovakian developer working on the system.
I can't hear. I don't know about the others.
You want to move over there?
We can do it.
Is it better now?
Maximum. That's maximum.
It is better.
It is better now.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
it is better.
Put it down for a moment. Yeah. Okay.
I'll allow it.
Thank you. It's quite difficult to take it.
Yeah.
So HB Realis is a Slovak developer who is operating on the 6 markets around the Europe. We are in the Slovakia, obviously. And Petra knows us very well because we have a lot of interaction related to the engagement of the city within our project. We are also in Budapest. We just finalized the Agora project on the close to the Váci corner. And it's Agora Tower and Agora Hub, where we happily also welcomed our customers, Raiffeisen Bank, and also BP from the UK British petrol company. Also, we are Justina. We are placed in Warsaw. Our offices, where our company is sitting, is Postępu in Warsaw. But now we are working and developing a project called Forest. And when you mentioned in your presentation New Forest, that this project of Forest is really something which is a office building, like put it into the lot of the greeneries with all the up standards related to the sustainability and greenery. The next presence we have in the Czech Republic, in Prague and Brno, and also we are developing a project in Berlin and in the UK, where we are with the 3 projects. One is called Bloom, and it's also related very much about the greenery, green terraces, etc. Actually, I joined the company 2 years ago, and I was coming after 20 years being with the IT. So moving from the IT industry to the real estate industry was quite a big move for myself personally. However, I found this company very interesting because I found out that I was never so close to the technologies like with this company. And the reason is that we as a company, as a developer, developed, it started somewhere 4 years ago, like kind of the sub brands around the workspace. So we were starting to think differently about our products. Not just the building, it's not enough. The people need more. We need to hear what our customers are looking for, what the cities are looking for, and who is living around. It doesn't want to build another La Défense, which is empty after 5 o'clock, or the center London after the 5 o'clock around the bridge of London, which is empty again. It's very weird, and our cities are much smaller, and we would like to have the vibe there. We would like to have the life after 5, and that's why we built all the ecosystem around our buildings. Firstly, it's consultancy who is listening our customer, they need, and especially now after the COVID, I can tell you it's helping us a lot because it's helping us to have the right discussion with our customer, like what is the right mix of the home office and working at the office to be safe, to not lose the productivity and this type of the discussion. Secondly, it is technological platform which is helping us to know what our buildings are doing, how much CO2 we have in the meeting rooms, and when it starts to be dangerous for the people in the rooms. For example, what is the humidity level? What is the ecosystem outside? We have this station which are monitoring the environment around, because you can imagine with the buildings, it's a quite dusty situation. So we want to make sure that the things are okay for the people living in the surround areas. The third one is the services for the people who are living in our project. I'm very happy that we are supporting the cycling and the mobility in the building and outside of the building. In the building, it is through the internal stairs. So we are putting a lot of internal stairs into the not the stairs on the corridors, but really internal stairs who are pushing you to stand up from your desk and not use elevator, but go and walk for 5 minutes. And this is again very important for our health. And you cannot imagine like what it makes with your mental health and with your physical health to move from space to space. Also, the outside we are supporting the cycle paths, and Petra can confirm this in area of the Navy. We developed so far about the 1,500 new type of the paths for the cycling, and each of our persons sitting in our building have possibility through the application to take the bicycle and to take this I don't know the right English word.
It's called scooter.
Scooter, yeah, thanks. So this scooter, and I'm really happy to see the people using it. It's, you know, like you can book it and use it. And then, especially nowadays, it's very important, and there I will end with my introduction to very important services, which is like flexible offices. And this is something which really get attraction, it costs gifts. And why I'm mentioning this, especially now after the COVID, when you have the company between 20 to 100 employers, how do you know for how long you will need this premises? You doesn't want to sign very long contracts. You want to be flexible. You want to be able to grow. You want to be able to go down with the size of your office. And it's something which we are putting in our building as a sandwich effect. And it has a good traction by the customers. because then they can share, for example, meeting rooms. There is no necessity that they are, like building their own meeting rooms. They can easily share the equipment we are providing in those types of offices. And innovation is something which really is something very common, and we believe in the innovation with the company. And that's why we developed the co-working space called Hub. We have it in Warsaw again, we have it in Budapest, we have it in Bratislava, UK, all the cities. And it's not just about the providing those small startups and scale-ups with the offices, but giving them the opportunity to solve and develop themselves, to find the talents, to promote their solution in front of the big stakeholders, corporations, and to also help them, for example, to prepare themselves when they have the venture capital presentation. They have a great product, but they don't know how to market it. So we are helping them to prepare those presentations and to put them in front of the venture capitalists to promote themselves. So this is kind of the beyond the normal development, I believe, and it helped us to be better prepared for this COVID time. Even 4 years ago, I don't think nobody was thinking about this type of the epidemic which we are living those days. So
thank you. And Julian, I'll just jump in very quickly if I may, because I think Oliver has to leave a bit early, but I mean, that's absolutely fascinating, and obviously tying into kind of the post-COVID world and all these new flexibilities. But I think also just with energy management for buildings, that's something that needs to be kind of revised. And the reason, of course, I invited Norbert Friedel here from the president's office is obviously, the president of Slovakia is quite a green star within the region, and these cities are very explicit about their kind of environmental goals, climate goals, and at the end of the day, it's also about kind of citizen outreach and connecting to citizens, which is something I think the president does very well here in Slovakia. So I just thought it'd be interesting to maybe hear a few words from you and how what the perception is in Bratislava, the potential of cities when governments perhaps are a bit slower acting, let's say, especially in the region.
Yeah, so maybe I jump in. Apologies for ruining the order, but thank you for the opportunity to speak once again. My view is that since the beginning, when Zuzana Čaputová, our Madam President, was taking the office, basically something like one and a half year ago, the agenda of environment and climate was very high. I joined the team a little bit later, just a few months ago, maybe 5 months ago. But since then, we have developed the concept very much. We advanced into direction of becoming first public institution that will be climate neutral by 2030. We underwent very serious analytical work how to achieve it. What kind of data we are working with? So very much similar what's happening in the capitals of Visegrad, if I may put it that way. And we have decided to be the first to inspire many others, not only the president's office but also many other public buildings, especially, or let's say municipal regional administrations. They can also go for that kind of objectives. We know that on the business side, we know that they tend to be much more, let's say, forward-looking and ready to invest. However, in the public sector, it makes it a little bit more tricky and difficult. And we decided to be very ambitious, meaning we are going to extend, we already applied, but we're going to extend green public procurements to procure more environmentally friendly products and services. So now we have like 3 categories, and we are going up to 10. We are buying only green energy. So since July this year, we want to rely on pure green energy. We are going to upgrade the building stocks within the next, let's say, few years, in a way that we integrate renewables with photovoltaics, especially, but also green roofs and green walls within the office of Madam President, not only in Bratislava, but also in her premises in Banská Bystrica, Hajka Trust, and Košice. We are going to upgrade the mobility towards more electrification and cleaner cars, and using also public transport if the situation allows. And it's valid not only for her car and the convoys, but also for the office cars that operate basically in the urban areas and they have very low mileage to be used. So it's very easy to switch, to change for electric, for example. And then again, we cannot actually go to zero with our measures, applying energy efficiency gains and integrating renewables. So we need to offset some of the emissions, and the biggest chunk of the share of emissions comes from aviation. And roughly 2/3 of overall emissions are related to transport. So we can upgrade the fleet and be electric, let's say, but from the aviation, we can really do more. So here it comes the planting of trees and promoting the green areas, not only on the roofs, but we will, together with the state-owned enterprise, identify state-owned land that we can plant at least 1,300 trees a year. We are going to start within the week or two already. So those are very concrete projects. Of course, we are going to be zero waste office. We banned already single-use plastic. We introduced the ban on bottled waters for tap water. And those are the little elements that when you combine them all, you can be really on a sustainable path and go into climate neutrality. So I think I will stop here.
Thank you, Norbert. And that's a very good example of kind of flagship initiatives that can be copied by other institutions, and obviously giving the example is a very good way to lead. And also this point about the green public procurement that you mentioned is also something that we probably can discuss. Earlier I was talking to Ada about possibilities and difficulties also about joint public procurement when it comes to let's say technology or electric cars or buses and so on. This could certainly be one of the things that could go into our agenda further. Is Stanislav Kowalik here?
Yeah, hello. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So we would love to hear your reflection on the discussion so far.
Yeah, I would like to start with the attempts that we faced as a utility, as an energy distributor and energy services provider. And I would like to describe you a very interesting initiative that is happening in Slovakia and was happening last year when we managed to finalize the concept of energy performance contracts, which is a special business model that allows you to implement energy efficiency measures in buildings refurbishment in public sector, where investment is covered by savings, energy savings, and the investment which are implemented in such business model are not part of the public debt. So it incentivizes municipalities and public sector to speed up renovation of buildings. We have like 15,000 public buildings in Slovakia, and the market of renovation of these underinvested buildings would present 150 to 200 million euro yearly. So this concept was finalized last year. Unfortunately, on the example of city of Bratislava, they intended to renovate 150 buildings, but due to complexity of the procurement due to complexity of the process, where you have to do the audit and then procure the installation company and do all these measures. Out of 150 buildings, only 20 or 30 were finally procured and will be implemented. So this is something where we see opportunities also for us as we can provide such services. But what I would like to point out, we need to not only incentivize and maybe subsidize public sector when doing such initiatives, but moreover, we need to simplify the process, which is very complicated, very complex for municipalities, for public sector to really finalize. So there we see a big opportunity, not only for us, but also for municipalities. But a lot of work needs to be done in order to make it more comfortable for municipalities, because we have everything prepared. There is competence on the side of the service providers. There are additional money that can be used either from banks or special funds, but the process is very complex, and this needs support from legislation part or other authorities that are responsible for that. So this is an example how we can move forward in that direction, but still it's a big challenge for municipalities.
Thank you, Stanislav. You're probably referring to the guide to the statistical treatment of energy performance contract, which was changed by Eurostat in 2018. Yes. And one issue with that is that very few municipalities actually know it. Some know it, but don't understand it. I mean, is that your impression?
It's absolutely true what you are describing. They don't know it. If they know it, they don't trust it. And if they know and trust it, it becomes too complicated to start. So now we're looking for a way how to help them, how to support them in order to start the process. Because what you need to do as a mayor of any city, be it a big or large city, small or large city, you need to first have an audit. You need to know what buildings you have, what's the energy consumption. So you have to have a good idea what are the assets that you want to renovate and improve energy efficiency. Then you need to procure the audit. And then when you have the audit, you can do the tender. And then it becomes very, very complicated, because you combine the energy efficiency measures with standard building or let's say construction part. And this is something where the expertise does not exist on the municipality side and is very weak on the external partners side. So that's where I see the big problem. Not only that they don't know it, but if you educate them, it's difficult to implement.
And what? So two quick questions on that. First, what is the solution? I mean, in addition to educating and promoting, what would be the solution for that? And the second, can you give us any indication of what kind of financial resource this knowledge and this guidance could unlock?
I believe that the EU funds could be treated in such a way that they will financially support municipalities to be able to buy advisory or external support and have these EPC projects done as a turnkey solution. That could really help, so that they don't have to invest upfront in order to know what is the size and the parameters of the project. So that would be the funding, would be also the green recovery money can be used for that. And then really we have and the new companies and consultancies will arise if the market really starts developing for that particular business. So there will be enough external partners, but if we give stimulus to the municipalities and make the process easier in the legislation, that could really give a kick to the market.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. And now Martina Hrevankova, who is head of marketing and communication of UB.
I try to find the topic which I could add to this because I think it was also tackling the missing policy on things which we are probably struggling with when we risk assessing as a financing bodies these kind of projects. So even our risk policy cannot basically, then they don't have something to be like trusted. What is the even the impact on environment and things like that? We don't have this embedded in our policies. So, but this is something which is a very big challenge for banks as well, together with all these kind of things. How to basically cover these in our risk assessment to be really ready to finance and incentivize this kind of behavior and this kind of things. So it's one big thing. And I was here also because I also like to all the story about the green cities and how to, and I always interesting how to engage people into this story. And many cities using the kind of payment tools like city cards, things like that, which they incentivize even before the public transportation. But I think nowadays with the new technology and things which we can put into those tools, we can incentivize people for any kind of green way how they behave or what they do, how they even if they use the phone, we can punish them. But no, it's always the incentivize or even do the positive and negative tool. But what I see also for banks and even in the city to help these kind of things to behave people and engage people into the right way to using public transportation, special parking places, crowdsourcing, crowdfunding things, take care about the green things. So this is the way how we probably can, as well as a bank, somehow participate in the whole story, to find a way how to help citizens and how to help the cities to also navigate them to the right behavior. That's from my side.
Probably the two-way, like the business, incentivize them, for example, if the company is building with the certification and high standards.
Yes, as well.
And then citizens, yeah.
Of course, we think about all of the green products like incentivized mortgages, incentivized with other things with the green standards, kind of regular thing, but also these kind of things. And then we are talking about the cities and the citizens, which I think I found fascinating, how to match people to the right behavior.
Yeah. Thank you, Martina, very much. And the financial angle is getting stronger now in our discussion. We have another 20 minutes, 25 minutes left for our session, which we should dedicate to our discussion. First, I would suggest if there are any specific questions to the speakers so far for clarifications to ask these questions now. Probably.
Yeah, I would just ask kind of in general about urban space. And I just didn't hear that addressed directly, but maybe if I could just pass that around to the city representatives, like if there's some kind of strategy, let's say, for reducing the vehicle footprint, for example, not only traffic congestion, but parking. I live in Budapest also, so it's very personal.
Yeah.
But for everybody, if everybody could maybe comment on public space. And also that comes back to the citizen as well, right? Because we're talking about behavior.
Yeah, I think it is a very tricky issue how to get rid of the huge amount of cars in the city, which is actually, I mean, these cities were not built to accommodate so many metal objects on the streets. And that's the, you know, there are different ways of doing it, that you can make it very expensive for the people to have their cars in the city. You can introduce the conjunction car fee or levy, or some kind of yeah, basically some kind of uh, financial incentive to not use not use the car. You can put a new tax on the second, the third car, which is very usually totally exempt of any fees whatsoever, using public space in the city. So yeah, I mean, there are many ways of how to make it more expensive, more problematic using cars, and at the same time introducing the idea of shared services in the city, like it happened in Vienna or in Berlin or in London. What you could never believe, actually, in the past, that London can become a city where walking is something what you are kind of, you know, what is an appealing action in downtown city. So yeah, I mean, we on the table now in terms of Budapest, there are many policy options to decide or to choose from, and we might also combine those. We already had introduced a lot of new biking infrastructure in Budapest, so which had this effect of, you know, pushing out cars basically from because the car infrastructure is getting really squeezed and scarce. So this is the type of actions we are thinking about.
Thank you, Ada, and thank you for mentioning London, where I'm actually in London at the moment, quarantined here. And one interesting thing about London is that it's a curious fact, rather, but it announced itself as the first city national park in the world. So yeah, what exactly that means, I don't know, but there is certainly signs that this is, and I will even post here for anybody who would like to see an article from National Geographic explaining that. But I think it's certainly, if nothing else, it's a very, very, very good communication and marketing approach, and it sounds very much like what Justina was saying earlier about Warsaw, that basically we should bring the nature in the city rather than expanding the city in the nature. We have now 20 minutes left, and my suggestion is that since it is a very small group but very distinguished and I think also very strong, and I would suggest that we discuss two things. First, what are the common issues, but also what we can do next, because the representatives of the key Visegrad cities sitting around the table could create a very strong group. This group already exists. It made a mark with its position on the European climate targets, but probably we can discuss other next steps, especially related to the territorial and strategic plans that are expected now, related to the recovery package, and the next multi-annual financial framework, and the question how the Visegrad cities, and probably extending this initiative to some other cities in the region and not only, could actually cooperate in advancing their agenda. So,
can I say something?
Of course.
Well, I see that there are many common spots and common policies or alike policies that we implement in terms of greenery, in terms of transport, in terms of retrofit of the buildings. And what I believe we all, as representatives of the cities, face is financial shortages, also due to the pandemic conditions and the decrease of income of cities due to the lower taxes and so on. So basically, I believe that the EU has to completely restructure its system of addressing those challenges in the cities. If the EU wants to address climate change, it needs to address cities, because cities are producers, the largest producers of emissions, but also the cities will suffer from the consequences of climate change the most. So basically cities are predestined, they like it or not, to be the focal points of any policies that are concerning climate change and specifically climate mitigation. Therefore, it's really a good point that we should proceed together as a group, and I don't see many differences when I heard what my predecessors spoke about. It's actually elements of these programs are also existent in Warsaw, and perhaps in part of them at least in all cities in the region. And I would see that first of all, buildings retrofit is an issue that we are not going to be able to handle alone. Of course, we do implement projects. Currently in Warsaw, 50 public buildings will be modernized in the ESCO formula, energy saving company formula, with sort of PPP, so with the private partners covering the investment costs. Nevertheless, if we want to proceed fast, we need to have some financial support for that. And I calculated more or less which are the costs of such action. We have around 5,000 buildings belonging to the city, 700 schools, hundreds of kindergartens, and so on. And these buildings, to make a deep retrofit of these buildings, to also to construct a kind of a city virtual power plant, that would be an idea. We're thinking of it. It costs around 1 billion euros, which is double the investment budget of the city, annual investment budget. Then the greenery is another challenge, because we cannot finance acquisition of land by the EU funds, just a small percentage. And the largest barrier for us in expansion of greenery is that usually, and I believe in other cities, the situation is similar. The land is already owned by someone, and it's not the city who is an owner. So we need to buy it back. And that's another barrier and a challenge. I mentioned this great, today a wasteland, but a material for a real natural reserve and a sponge park, let's say. But it costs around 300 million zlotys, which is around 100 million, less than 100 million euros. Again, we would need to rebuy this land. So city will manage to implement the plan anticipating living greenery in this area, living in natural, which would be very desirable from my perspective, but we need those money to buy it back. So again, the money issue. And the transport, obviously extremely costly, but here the EU is participating already to a large extent in our purchase of the electric buses, but also trams, expanding tram and expanding the metro line. So I would see buildings and transport, electrification of the transport and greenery as three major areas where we could basically together apply or try to lobby within the EU to either figure out basically a separate program, or at least to create some program that cities can apply directly. With conditions attached, obviously, you can design the program. I mean, based on, for instance, the scale of reduction, emission reduction, on things like that. I mean, that's okay, but we need assistance for sure.
Well, thank you, Justina. That's a whole kind of manifesto now for the for the group.
Using the occasion to speak important ones.
What are the reactions on that? I mean, I'm sure when we talk about the finances, this is a key issue. Part of it is the EU finances, also the question how to attract the private investment, but also to unlock the possibility with the ESCO projects, and I'm sure Stanislav will help us with some formulations here. But what are the reactions from the other cities?
Julian, I think I can relate to what Justina just said, and I full-heartedly support what you were coming up as a conclusion, probably, for our debate. As von der Leyen just recently said, we have to double the energy efficiency renovation rate in order to renovate all of the buildings, or most of the buildings, by 2050. I totally agree with that, but for that to happen, we have to give a very huge incentive to people to do that. I count or calculate in Eastern Europe, it must be above the local value added tax, because this is the magic rate, what you can basically cheat on, if you like. So in some countries, it should be above 30%, like in Hungary, and in some countries, it could be above 20. What is very important in case of cities, that those buildings which are in the cities, in big cities like Warsaw, Budapest, they will be used for sure in the next 30 years. We are not so sure about villages. We are not so sure about the outskirts of smaller cities. But what 90% sure that these buildings are going to be used, and the energy is going to be used in these buildings. Therefore, this is the best value for money if we consider emission reduction. The other thing is that energy efficiency investments can be considered as infrastructure investments. It is infrastructure of the building assets. It is a long-lived investment, because you basically build into the money into your house. It is infrastructure because it provides and contributes to the public good in form of better air quality and such like that. And the other thing is that if we consider the municipalities as a coordinative body to support the single or to support a larger area efficiency investments, that can also lower the cost of the energy retrofit. So what this all is asking for, really, direct EU funding to show to our governments that these cities can perform on the climate front, which has never happened before. And these cities were in the forefront of dialing up the ambition of the Visegrad 4, which these governments are quite reluctant to do so. So therefore, I'm quite keen on putting this forward onto the desk and table of the EU and the Commission to consider really the RRF having a massive chunk of money directing into cities for that particular purpose, renovating buildings. Otherwise, we are not going to meet the Paris target. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. So basically, you're arguing for either funds being directly allocated to cities or even through some other route, but earmarked for that purposes. Okay.
Yeah, because this needs the most amount of money. I mean, greening the city, and I understand acquisition of land is a great, yeah, it could be a big burden, but the most public value, I guess, or my calculation is that would be provided by efficiency in the city environment.
But we should think, I imagine, also about the different other instruments. I mean, not just the European money, but also the wide variety of financial instruments that can support such absolutely massive objective. Any other reflections on that?
I would only confirm that, if I may say, what was said now, and having the opportunity to have the representative of the bank here at the table, I would also invite banks to be more ambitious in that regard, because utilities or ESCO companies, as the providers of the services for municipalities in relation to the buildings, they would be very happy and would have better capacity and more comfort if banks would not only be able to co-finance such projects, but would be brave enough, of course that's a commercial aspect of what is important here, to be able to do the forfeiting here, because the receivables in long-term contracts that we usually make with municipalities when we operate energy appliances or do the EPC project, it's sometimes 10 to 15 years a contract. Would be good if banks would be more ambitious in buying those receivables from the services providers. So there I see an important role of banks as well. That's the comment I wanted to make.
Martina, what would you say to that?
I think these all kind of things are on the table discussing this, because these new challenges, which basically, the banks are probably a little slower than other sectors. Us, we are more conservative, but I think in this case we probably will go for it. I think pretty soon. So,
you can't be slower than a municipality.
yeah. Okay. Well, I was working for the central government.
Ministry, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, but it's definitely in the focus.
Petra, is that agenda attractive for Bratislava, and would you sort of support that kind of line of pressurizing or communicating or lobbying the commission, whatever word we pick?
Definitely, yes. I mean, for us, we actually got inspired by what Poland did in the previous funding period with their city regions and integrated territorial investments, and they managed to use EU funds very effectively. And we are trying to cooperate in the region and with all the stakeholders. So the areas mentioned, from mobility to energy efficiency and greenery, are crucial to us and are our priority. So we absolutely agree.
And we will have at least one electric boat between Bratislava and Budapest.
And we can go to Vienna as well if you want to.
Of course. Any other additions or suggestions to that? I mean, in terms of operational suggestions, what I would...
I think Martina wanted to share something.
It's more personal suggestion,
Yeah.
like any business comment, but recently I have a visit from the Israel, the part of my family. She came with the kids for the 2 weeks, and she was all about to go to the center and you know, to spend some time there because she was a student here, so the memory and everything. And she came back really frustrated because she found out that the old city is almost empty without those little stands, without the, you know, like those little cafeterias. The majority of those are closed because of this pandemic situation. And my ask to you, the representative of the city, is to also think about those small and medium businesses and try to navigate them and probably to help them, because they probably do not have this financial acumen and they don't know how to navigate themselves through these difficult times. And finally, we had a beautiful city life. And now after the COVID, we can easily lose all the spirit of the cities. And I'm worried about it in terms of the sustainability of those small businesses in the center of the cities. So if you already have some plans how to probably engage them and to provide them with some information and support, and don't forget them. I know that the energy consumption is very important, the greenery is very important, transportation is very important, but those SMB part of our center cities can also have a huge impact, at least on your taxes.
For sure. Yeah.
Thank you. And what I would suggest is, Nolan, do you think we can probably write some memo or some conclusions and share it with everybody and build it up into a kind of either statement? Or...
I'm really happy to hear all of you, sharing some kind of energy around this, because it is quite different than communicating with ministry. So I feel like. And that's the contrast. I think that's a great narrative coming out of the region now, when it's kind of stalled at the national level when it comes to the more ambitious climate targets and allocation of recovery funds. So yes, I mean I'm very excited about this initiative, and I see that everybody is supportive. So absolutely, and I will reach out to you as well to make sure we get a thumbs up from Prague. So absolutely, there will be follow-up from my side with some of these conclusions. Great. And I think we can really, from a GLOBSEC perspective, I mean, that's why we're having this meeting. So I hope that we can kind of continue with this engagement, even expand this engagement as well, because this was meant to be a larger seminar, but we can still use this as kind of planting the seed. Absolutely.
Yeah, I hope it will be well received and
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. And probably Nolan, we will follow with all that. And Nolan, your final words as a host.
Yeah, that was it basically. So Julian, thank you for joining us virtually. It's sad to not have you here this year, but hopefully next year we'll be able to reconvene without the masks and everything. But yeah, the mayors are on in 15 minutes, by the way. So if you guys want to try to navigate the platform, 3:15 will be the mayor's panel. So in 15 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
everybody. And next year around the table.
Yeah,
Bye.
substantial amount of booze.
Yes. I'll get answers.